This week I caused $29,500 of cash collected in just LinkedIn DMs. I didn't use any email, I didn't use any text, I didn't use any ads. And look, this might sound a little bit far-fetched, but I'm going to show you on this one video the exact DM setting process that we use on LinkedIn to drive anywhere from between 30 to 40 qualified sales qualified leads per month, which enables us to get in touch with people who already like, know, and trust us, get them on calls, and then leverage those findings from the DMs to actually book calls with people that can actually close rather than tire kickers. Before I hear you say, look, LinkedIn doesn't work for our niche, we've tried DMs before in the past, they're like, I understand that. But at the end of the day, you probably are doing what I like to call random acts of growth. And this is where you're just throwing shit at a wall, hoping that something will stick, right? And the truth is, if you actually had a system to run your LinkedIn DMs, you would actually be able to drive tangible, predictable pipeline and revenue from LinkedIn as a platform. And today I'm going to show you how to do this. So look, why do DMs fail for most people? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about, why do DMs fail for most people? Let's talk about the old way. Most people approach DMs in one of two broken ways. They're either going to pitch slap, where they're going to say, okay, look, I've got a service, they connect with you, you connect with them, right? And then you go, bam, surprise, I want you to buy my service. And that doesn't work. And the other one is the endless casual chat. You've got the people on the other end of the spectrum who never make an offer or pitch to their audience, right? And they just get stuck in the casual DMs forever. And the conversation just goes on and on and on, and it never leads to an actual, conversion event. Now, both of these cause your buyer anxiety, and they cause you anxiety. Because look, you just have no idea how to actually take a person on LinkedIn who doesn't know you to be booking them into a sales call. Now, one of the other things is perhaps you've got some of maybe the process down for actually messaging, but maybe you're just contacting the wrong people. And you know what? This is actually more of a common problem than you think, right? Because what is the point in, generating all of these conversations if it's just the wrong people? You might as well be doing nothing. You have to actually understand and define who your ideal client persona is and only spend your time with the right people. Wrong ICP. And it's often the fact that it's not actually about LinkedIn, the channel at all. It's just that, with this old way, it's random acts of growth, as I've said. It's that there's no system. So what's the new way? Super, super, super simple. The new way is all about doing DM selling how, you actually would if you went to a conference, right? Engaging and being human. New way. The thing I always say to clients or to my selling team is, it should always feel like the next natural thing to say. It is not rocket science. If you get stuck with a script and you literally sat there literally locked in, going from one same question to the next and not actually listening or reading, moreover, what your buyer says, you'll never connect with them. So it has to be the next natural thing that you would say in a conversation. For example, I might say on LinkedIn, okay, how's it going? With everything you're in, what are you focused on? Yeah, we're focused on, growing. Oh, cool. What are you looking at to grow at the moment? Well, we're looking to grow our client acquisition. Oh, that's great, man. What have you seen recently, that making you think that you want to get and grow your client acquisition? I'm not running a script. I'm literally saying the next natural thing to say in conversation. Another thing that is literally how we actually manage to pull in, as I said, $29,500 from DMs on LinkedIn was, again, a very simple thing. It was starting conversations with people that like, know, and trust me, right? I think my handwriting's getting a bit better because I got a couple of comments from some of my other videos telling me that, I've got doctor's handwriting, which is them being polite to saying looks shite. Starting conversations with people that like, know, and trust me. So where do we get these people? Super simple. Likes, comments, views, connections, follows. I get 1,600 of those ICPs per month. And if you post content, this is the lowest hanging fruit for you to drive predictable pipeline for LinkedIn with people that have already said that they know you exist and they are potentially interested in what you're doing. Fucking layup. So we're not cold calling strangers. We're activating my warm network. The next thing is knowing who we're actually targeting, the right ICP. So when my setter is, in my LinkedIn DMs, we have this dialed. We know exactly who we're targeting and who we're leaving, which means that the only conversations we're having are those people who we could actually sell to. And I know that my ideal client persona is an agency owner doing between 1 to 5 million ARR, founder-led, might have a team, reliant on referrals, looking to scale specifically in, maybe technological space or a consultancy with a high ticket ACV. We know exactly what they look like on LinkedIn. So that is what you have ultimately got to be doing in order to spend your time with the right people. The next thing here, guys, is adequate tracking. You need to have a DM CRM. And this sounds so nerdy, but you would not believe the amount of leads that we never used to get. I think it literally might be double. Because what would happen before is people would come in, they'd have a conversation with me. It might not be the right time. And then, because we never tracked any of it in our CRM or where people were in the conversation, they were gone forever into the void of LinkedIn. You must have, with this new way, with this way that's actually driven $29,500 this week from high ticket clients, DM CRM, and it should be really simple, right? We've got a condo, right? That condo is a LinkedIn tool, and maybe I could show a screenshot at some point over here of what it looks like. We've got who we're opening in the DMs, meaning have we opened a conversation with a potential client? We have the next one is qualifying. They're actually engaging us in conversation, right? The next is meeting link sent, because we want to know how many people at any point in time are getting ready to book in. And then the final one is meeting booked. And the genius of this, and that isn't like a hyperbolic word, because this wasn't even my idea. I got this from some people that I worked with like a couple of months back, was this acts like a funnel. Because at any point in time, I know exactly how many people are opening, right? I know how many people were qualifying. I know how many meeting links are sent, and I know how many meetings booked. Now, when I know the numbers, I can extrapolate, and then it becomes mathematical. If we know that we probably book 5 meetings, let's say, for example, a week, and that requires you to do 60 touches a day and 30 follow-ups, to double that, you'd have to double your numbers. That is literally how simple it gets to actually drive predictable pipeline from a setting process on LinkedIn. This cannot be understated how important it is. A DM CRM process. And I'll probably break this down in detail on another video, because that was absolute rocket fuel. Because one of the other good things is as your team grows, and it will, as you get LinkedIn to work for you, is the more engagement you get, the more opportunities you have to book meetings. Now, what this means is for me, because I'm getting 1,600 people a month engaging with my stuff who are ICP, I get way more than that, by the way, but that's literally ideal client persona. To keep track of that in a LinkedIn DMs is literally fucking impossible. The LinkedIn DMs are rubbish for that. So what this means is if I catch a hot lead, or one of our setters catches a hot lead, and I see them respond and they're not in work, etc., or I'm having a chat with somebody and I don't want it to get lost, I can just assign it to them, and they will hop in and surgically get in there at a fraction of the time, because speed to lead is everything. And that's probably the new way. And it's not really that new, but I'd say this more than ever on LinkedIn is so adequate. If you're not getting in there and booking a meeting literally within minutes of them coming in, you will lose that opportunity to get that person as a client, right? And I sound hyperbolic, but you know what? All of your competitors, right? Some of them are doing this. Some of them are working with people like me. Some of them are working with me, right? And we're running this process for them end to end. And if you aren't running that and have speed to lead, you're cooked. with a capital C. So that's the old way. This is what we want to stop doing, and this is what we want to move towards. And I call this entire process, I call it curiosity gap selling. Now, why do I call it curiosity gap selling? Well, I need to explain to you a little bit about the theory, which I'm not going to bore you to death, guys, but if you put a gun to my head and you put me in a room and you said, look, you've got to explain high-level B2B DM setting to a 11-year-old, and you wanted to make sure that it would work, this is exactly what I would do. Or maybe, look, if somebody put a gun to my head and said, look, you can only save your family's life if, you explain DM setting to my parents, what would I do? And this is exactly what it does on the tin. So in any conversation in your prospect's mind, they're basically thinking about the following things. And we can call this the gap. Every single prospect you ever talk to is thinking about the gap. Or they kind of know parts of it, but you've got to create it. Your central role in any DM conversation with your seller or your person in your team is to create this gap. And what is the gap, you ask? Well, very, very simple, guys. We've got your present shitty reality. Present reality, for your buyer, your B2B buyer, this is all the stuff that's going on for them that sucks. I don't know, maybe they're reliant on referrals, they can't get enough of them, they're getting poor quality opportunities, they can't scale the business the way that they want to, they're stuck in the delivery framework, and whenever they get projects, they get caught up in it, and business development falls. They can't scale the business, and they're utterly stuck. And then we've got their dream future state, where they really want to be. Like, la-di-da, amazing land. You might have seen Happy Gilmore, and he goes, Happy Gilmore's happy place. And it's like his girlfriend sat there and, with beers, dressed in a bikini, and in the film, that's like his happy place. Well, your buyers have probably got a similar dream future state, right? They're probably thinking about predictable revenue, not worrying about where the next client was coming from, not being needed to be in that process for their lead generation to work. I've just given you examples. It has to be relevant to your model as it stands. And in a DM, we have to create this gap. That is literally it, guys. You have to have a gap between, you have to show them the present reality and their dream state. And once they understand there is a gap between those things, and you help them to understand what is missing from them getting there and telling them a little bit about your offer, like a little bridge to your offer, guess what that equals? Booked calls. And I know it sounds very simplistic, but that at the center of it is what every single conversation that you're doing, whether it's marketing, whether it's DM setting, whether it is your sales process, this is what is going on the prospect's head. They have a gap, or you make them see the gap because maybe they only see their present reality or they only see their goal. And once they believe that and see what's missing, and they see your offer as a bridge towards the solution, they're closing. So what does this process look like? How do you actually manage the DMs to create that gap to truly move into this new way of running DMs? And this is all part of the new way of this entire process, which I like to call the founder-led DM system. And this is just a small part of that, right? There's tons of other stuff involved with this. We can jump into that in another video. Now, the first part is when we're going into a DM conversation on LinkedIn, we want an opening. And an opening could just be, how we're going to engage with them in LinkedIn. So you might send them a connect. Hopefully, it'll be a connect from a like, a comment, a view, a connection. Let's just say LinkedIn intent. Warm leads that already like, know, and trust you. The purpose of the opener is to open the DM thread, right? This is critical that you say the right thing at the right time, because if you don't, you're getting ignored. And it's so much harder to make another impression. You might have said, people make up their first impression of you within 3 seconds. It's probably 1 second on DM. So if you cook this, forget about it. It's so much harder to get them back in again. This, if you use a closed question, and there's some other types of questions that you can use, so that could be is it this or is it that, is easier to answer for your prospect and lowers buyer resistance to respond. Because all that's happening in DMs at the moment is that everybody, when you message them, is fuck me, this guy is going to sell me. And then they switch off. But when you give them a close-ended question, it's like, you know, probably remember being at school, they go, hey kids, you know, do you know the answer to the question, what is 5 times by 5? Is it 25 or is it 30? And then everybody goes, oh, pick me. That is it. We're just kids at the end of the day. Nothing's really changed. That is the context of why these questions are so powerful, because it lowers the resistance and they can respond with a yes or a no question. And the only thing here is to get them engaged, right? Because once you engage them, right, in conversation, now this is where it gets really fucking juicy, guys. Like this is money here. So when we engage them, we have to understand the following things. And this is where we begin to create that gap I was speaking about earlier. We have to uncover, you know, maybe a little bit about, you know, their current situation, because your buyer is going to give you some shitty response, more than likely. It's very rare where you get DM conversations where somebody goes, hey, like, how's it going? Great. Like, I don't know, have you noticed those posts on LinkedIn? The whole feed is like AI, or like, is that not your experience? Closing the question. Yeah, that's my experience. And then they'll go, hey, can I work with you? Very unlikely that's going to happen. So we've got to find out a little bit about them first. You could ask them, like, you know, what are they focused on? We're trying to find a need where we can hone in on a little bit of pain. And they might say, you know, I'm focused on client acquisition. So this is where you can surface it and ask a problem probing question. And I absolutely love from one of my mentors, JP, John Paul Egan, 7th level top rep. He literally does about $90,000 a month at the age of like 22. Shout out JP. One of my favorite ones is, look, what have you seen recently in your business that has you looking into client acquisition? Because, you know, they don't want client acquisition, right? Nobody wakes up one day and goes, hey, you know what? I really want to run some LinkedIn lead generation, unless you're a fucking weirdo like me and I just do it for the love of it, right? At the end of the day, I'll geek out about it. There's something going on in their business that's making them want to do that. And that is what we hone in on. Once you get that, you can expand on the gap. Well, how long has it been going on? Why do you think that's happening? And then the next piece here is we want to find out desired state. So it could be different for so many things. If they're focused on SEO, it would be, okay, like, where do you want to go in rankings? If they're focused on, I don't know, lead generation, how many clients do you want to take on a month? If they're focused on, I don't know, we got a cloud client, which is, you know, helping them to reduce AWS costs. Like, what are the sort of cost reductions that you're looking to get in place? Because this is the gap. We've got where they are, where they want to go. And then you want to ask a specific question, which is going to make the buyer surrender what is actually missing from them getting there. Because once they admit what's missing, they've given it to you in their own words. And nothing is more convincing and sweeter music to the buyer than their own logic, or as Carnegie would say, their own name. But it's the same with stuff. It has to come from the prospect's mouth, because that is 100x more convincing for them. Prospects don't, you know, get closed, they close themselves. And this is the whole point of doing this. Then the next piece here is, you know, you offer help. Because just because, you know, they've got a problem, just because you know that they want to go somewhere, just because they know what's missing, does not mean that they need your help, right? Simple as. And if they say, yeah, I need your help, you're just going to tell them a short client story and then suggest a call. There are a range of scripts, there are a range of questions, there are various other steps in this to avoid, you know, getting ghosted and all the rest of it. That's kind of like the secret sauce of us as an agency that we've had with thousands of these conversations over the last 3 years, of $130 million worth of pipeline, 6 million versus client results, and over 100 plus clients scaled. And I don't want to cough it all because I know my competitors are going to steal this. This is enough to get you in the box to actually drive predictable pipeline from LinkedIn. And this is about as simple as it gets, guys, for that process that, you know, generated $29,500 this week for me on LinkedIn. Now, if this feels, you know, like something that you'd like to try out for yourself, make sure you go down to the description on YouTube, click the link for filling out the founder-led audit. And that is going to give you a readiness of how ready you are to implement this on LinkedIn. It's going to tell you what is currently failing about your current process and what you can change about it. And it will also give you a completely customized 90-day plan, which will allow you to drive your next B2B client from LinkedIn in the next 90 days. If you enjoyed this video, please also subscribe. My name is Luke Shalom, and I had a great fun with you guys today in the session. Peace.